Hello, everybody. This is Tom Randall from Golden Care. I want to welcome you to the webinar today. It's my pleasure to be speaking to you today about extended care. This is a really important topic and how to start the conversation. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to get started here. And I want to welcome my good friend Dennis Rinner, who's on the call with us today. And Dennis and I have both been in this industry for a long time. Most of you are already familiar with us. Hopefully, you've been on one of our webinars before for most of you. And again, Dennis and I are like an old married couple jumping back and forth, and we'll have some fun on this webinar as well, because we do look forward to really getting into this. And again, I always talk about the fact that we're kind of drinking out of a fire hose, right? We have this little guy on some of our webinars because we do go through a lot of topics. And unfortunately, for some of you who have been jumped onto the previous webinar we had on this, where we talked about an intro and kind of gave a broader view of it, we're going to have to go through some of it again a little bit as a review, because of the fact that we want to make sure you know where the tools are, etc. So we don't want to bore some of you early on with going through some of this stuff, but we will go through it very quickly. So again, you will get the slides, so you don't have to panic. You won't be like the little guy on your screen. We will make sure that we get all the information to you throughout this. So that being said, Dennis, I'll let you jump in and we can talk a little bit, do a real brief intro here, and we'll get rolling.
Thanks, Tom. Every time I see that little guy, we always get people that ask, is that your son? So I think that's a compliment to maybe thinking you're that young that you could have a son that young. But
I like that. I like that. Go ahead, Dan.
In any event, for those of you who've been in the business, and this will come as no surprise, we've talked about these statistics quite a bit, that 70% of people require some type of care, especially those 65 and above. We know, however, that care is not definitely tied to age, although we do tend to think of those of you in the senior market where your clients, and especially married couples, where they're going to be exposed to having a need for some type of services. And we know that most people, in fact, a survey by AARP said that 86% of people want to age in place. They want to stay home. And the problem is that 90% of couples have never had a serious conversation about any form of planning, whether it's this extended care, what we also refer to as short-term care or long-term care. And boy, COVID really was an eye-opener for many that went through that, where seniors reportedly said that they would rather die, at least 61% that were surveyed, rather die than actually go into a nursing home. So we know that the numbers are there, and we know that, Tom, with this shifting market, that we've been around this long enough to know that we saw the first wave of the go-go years of long-term care, and then we saw the market begin to shift as buying age came down and declinations went up, and really consumers and agents, many agents left actually trying to provide this type of a solution because they found it was just too difficult. It was long-term care became problematic from an underwriting standpoint, and yet demand has never gone away. In fact, it's only increased as we look at this aging population, the silver tsunami that's really upon us right now. But what we've seen in the shift is that agents and consumers want to have products today that really are more affordable, that have less underwriting, and that they don't actually have a lot of options. They want to keep things very simple. So today you're going to hear us talk often about hitting the easy button, making sure we keep it simple when having the conversation. And Tom, I know that you can kind of give us some insights as to some resources and also just talk a little bit about the landscape of the marketplace here.
You bet. Yeah, that's one of the things we've seen. Dennis and I have been here doing this for too long, as we said, and you know that we helped design the mutual product, and we were out there selling long-term care almost exclusively and hybrids. And short-term care was always there, but it wasn't really a big player in the picture. And now we've seen how this market has changed. We've seen how we're sitting there in a long-term care market, banging our head against the wall a lot of times, especially when we're talking to people in their 60s, mid-60s, and 70s especially. It's a tough market. It's tough to go out there and try to get people covered and realize that you're hitting that underwriting wall. So long-term care and hybrids are still great products, and there's a great solution for some people. But what we're really seeing is we needed to change the way we went about business, right? We needed to go out there and say, we've got to help more people. And we've had so much fun this last several months, or the last couple of years, I should say. I just said several months because I just went to two big conventions and I had major players in the long-term care of the traditional market who said, you guys have changed the way we do business. You've changed our entire mindset and our mentality towards this marketplace. And the reason is that leads aren't cheap, right? They get more expensive all the time, and it's tougher to get in front of people and try to talk to people about it. And when you do that, it's nice to have solutions for more people. And that's what we're seeing is our career shop here at Golden Care. I mean, we're sitting at where we were pounding away at 60%, 65% placements are now jumping up to the 90s because we have more of a better product solution for people. So we can help people with long-term care if they can afford it and they can get through underwriting and get through those hurdles. That's great. But we need to make sure we help as many people as we can talk to. So as we get into markets, some of you might not even be in the long-term care trenches like we have been. You might be in saying, I sell med subs, I sell Medicare Advantage, I sell final expense. And what we're trying to do is really broaden this market because that 2030, that silver tsunami Dennis talked about, we know it's coming, and we have a great solution and bevy of products for you. So Dennis, we'll show the maps real quick here, but why don't you talk a little bit about a method to our madness on the product lines, if you don't mind?
Yeah, as Tom mentioned, these are proprietary products that we've been very fortunate to have our fingerprints on. The Manhattan Life product, we started out a little over a year ago with 13 states and a test market. And boy, we've just hit the cover off the ball with that. And Wallaby came along and started with 10 states. They're in 24 states. They'll probably cap out at 30. And GTL, as you can see here, kind of leads the charge at 37, followed by Manhattan with the Omniflex in 35. We're still trying to get a couple more states. And again, I mentioned about Wallaby. So the key is that depending upon what states you do business in, you always have to look at the availability because that's really the key. There's going to be certain states that are always going to be problematic, such as California, some of the Northwest, Washington, and then into the Northeast. And in the home care side, again, because these solutions, as Tom said, we're placing better than 90% in the short-term care. Our placement rate in the home care only products are up around 99%, which it's a game changer because, we're in the problem-solving business. And if we don't solve problems for people, they will, people don't like to look in the mirror about their own shortcomings and whether it's their height and weight or whatever it might be that could cause them, as Tom said, to be not fortunate enough to get coverage. So they're going to turn to their advisor, to their agent. And so we want to make sure that if we can't help solve that problem and help you to solve that problem, we know that clients will tend to go somewhere else. And so we also need to have, as a result of that, for those states that we don't have short-term care or home care, which is in the purple, we have another home care only prepaid home care hours, if you will. It's a non-insurance product, but boy, it's really been a game saver for us. States like New York, we've been very fortunate to be able to bring that solution into some unions and write a lot of business in that for the agency that brought the case and for the underwriter themselves, True Freedom. And so we need to have, again, those solutions that will help more people. As Tom said, that's our business. We're in the business of serving others, and we need to have solutions. And that's part of our perfect portfolio, if you will.
Right, Dennis, and that's one of the things that we bring on, and we want to show you today in this little intro part before we dive into starting the conversation a little bit deeper today, which will be good. Is we have all these tools. This is a screenshot, and I'm just going to pop it up here. We have all these different tools available for you, and that wasn't an exhaustive list of our products that you saw on those maps. Here we have the Manhattan Life Omniflex. This is short-term care, facility and home care. There's the Wallaby Essential Care, and then we've got GTL, and then we've got the recovery care from Aetna. And we have tools available for you that literally show you, and again, I'm not going to go through product training today, but show you side by side all the different benefits so you can feel really comfortable knowing what you're out there presenting and what you might be attracted to for certain clients, because we want to design individualized plans that work great for whoever you're sitting in front of. So this is just an example of the short-term care that goes all the way down to showing some sample premiums, etc. And then when we get over to the actual site that you guys are well aware of by now, hopefully, the Integrity STC site, it's integritystc.com. And this again shows all the information that you need to be successful out in the field. So you'll hear us say that old cliche many times. We don't toss you out of that plane without a parachute. So when you're done with this training today, know that you have a backup where you can go over and see our InstaPivot tool, our StratDecision tool. These are free for everybody who's working with Golden Care, so you don't have to worry about paying for like the $400 or $500 fee that you might pay otherwise for getting access to StratDecision. And this InstaPivot tool is a proprietary tool that we have that we let our agents use for free. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But all of these products in here, Omniflex, Recover Care, Wellaby, home healthcare plans are there. And if you click on these Learn More buttons, which I'm not going to spend the time to do today, but you'll see everything you could possibly need to have for each of those different products. So the sales and marketing area, we can go in there and you can see a lot of different tools in there, including all our full bevy of recorded training that you might want to look at in the future and bore yourself to tears listening to Dennis and I yap at you about hundreds of different topics, basically. So everything you need to have is inside this site. And again, I'm doing this real briefly, drinking out of the fire hose like we talked about, but Dennis has some great training down here about fireside chats and talking about some of the behind the scenes talks, conceptual selling, if you will, that he does a great job of. So check this site out. Make sure you do. And when you look at this site, you're going to see inside here things like consumer templates. So as we get into starting the conversation, one of the biggest hurdles that you got to get through is, who am I talking to? The good news is almost everybody you're sitting in front of, regardless of any product you're selling out there in America today, almost anybody is a prospect. Because we talked about the fact 90% of adults have never had a real conversation about short-term care, extended care, or long-term care, right? So you have a huge bevy of everybody, whether it's your neighbors next door or your clients you're selling your other products to. We have tools that you can go out and send to existing clients that'll give them a real nice, this is just an example of an email template for one of our home care products that you can click on there and see immediately that Medicare doesn't cover. I think I have that open even. Again, a little delay there, but it talks about here, home care isn't covered. You know what I mean? You got to make sure. Dennis, I know, is going to talk to you about the fact when we get into our sales process today that you're going to talk about, hey, use your short-term care guide, and it'll tell you right in there, it's not covered by Medicare, right? So all these tools are available to you. Again, you're taking it by shotgun here all at once, but I want to make sure you know everything you need to have is to be successful is here. And you can go and get detailed infographics from these email templates. And again, as we get through here, we just want to make sure you realize that everything you need is there, and starting the conversation is much, much easier. Dennis, I don't know if you want me to show InstaPivot now. I'll come back to that probably when we get into the health underwriting side of it. But is there anything else you want to add before we jump back into the conversation starting?
Yeah, Tom, I think we can cover the InstaPivot here in just a few minutes when we get into that discussion, but I do want to come back to the StratDecision and just mention something. You mentioned about the value add that we're making this available for free, which is about $500 a year subscription that agents would normally have to pay. And the reason why this is important, and it's not necessarily saying that you have to use it for point of sale, but we realize that we're in the infancy in this area of short-term care. There's a handful of carriers really that are out in the marketplace. Over the next couple of years, that's going to change dramatically. You're going to see a lot of carriers come into the marketplace. So that tool will help you in terms of being able to separate yourself as you can go in and get smarter and knowing how these plans stack up against each other. And it doesn't mean that you have to use it necessarily with a client, although you could. It means that you're going to be able to get smarter and being able to know the plan design and what those premiums look like. And so to me, that's a tremendous resource that we're making available to you.
You bet. We have all that on training, you guys. So if you look at in our training section that I showed you on the website there, the Integrity STC site, there's a there's a recorded training on how to use StrataDecision, and we also have live webinars, obviously, that we come through and show that as well. So let's jump in today. We did pretty good on the intro. We didn't get too long-winded there. And again, we know there's so much information we could go through, and some of that was really review for a lot of you on this call. But some of you are new, and I wanted to make sure you saw all those tools first. So Dennis, with your permission, I think we'd like to jump in. And again, if you don't know Dennis Rinner, he's been in this industry and just been super successful training agents and actually doing sales out there and doing live seminars and webinars for consumers. So Dennis is going to spearhead most of this, and I'll be jumping in like we do. But we really want to give you a little bit of a taste today about how simple it is. You'll hear us many, many times today saying, hit the easy button. Don't make things too complicated. Don't go too deep into too many different options and those types of things as we get in and talk about how easy it is to introduce this topic to your clients. So Dennis, if you want to go ahead and start it out, that'd be great.
Sure, Tom. Thanks much. Tom's out of our Minnesota office, and I live in Michigan myself, and so we have obviously all the seasons, and on occasion I have to go to Minneapolis to Plymouth, Minnesota, where Golden Care is located. And sometimes, it's in the heart of the winter, and I'll wonder, hey, where's Jeff or where's John? And there's some of the internal reps that we have, and Tom will say, well, they're out ice fishing. And of course, I've never been ice fishing, but as I understand from talking to those who are really pros, they say in order to get to the fish, you got to break the ice and cut that hole in the ice and basically be able to put your line in. And so we know that in starting the conversation, this is a 5-step selling process, and we're going to share with you, and really this is just guidelines. We're not trying to give you a track that is it's a track more so than a verbatim conversation of word for word of having a script. But the key is when you're starting that conversation and you are breaking the ice, getting to that customer, who is that customer? Well, the low-hanging fruit typically is your existing relationships. And so normally it's at the end of the interview on something else that you're having that conversation with them about, final expense or Medicare or an annuity or some other form of life insurance. It could be Medicare. Many of you are probably Medicare during AEP, doing Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements. And so it's really as simple as just saying, oh, by the way, or before I forget. And you want to just kind of set it up by asking them who do they have their extended care through. And many of them, when you ask an open-ended question like that, will not know what you're referring to. And so it's very easy to talk to them and remind them about the things that they have, the Part A, the Part B, the Part C, the Part D. And we jokingly talk about the Part E being extended care. And so it's not actually an official CMS, part of Medicare Part E. So don't necessarily use that. I'm just giving it to you as really more of a foundation that to help them to understand that Medicare was never intended to cover any of the things that relate to long-term care. And one of the great things that you can actually pull out if you are in the Medicare space is pull out your Medicare and You handbook and actually just turn to page 56 of that handbook, and you'll see right in plain writing the words that aren't your words. They're actually Medicare's words that say that Medicare and most health insurance, including Medicare supplement insurance, Medigap, don't pay for long-term care. And ask your client, why does Medicare go to such great lengths to tell Medicare-age individuals about the importance of planning ahead? And again, continuing on page 56, it's important to start planning for long-term care now to maintain your independence and to make sure you get the care you may need in the setting you may want now and in the future. This is actually Medicare's words letting your client know, because one of the biggest misconceptions when you are introducing extended care, and that's by the way, extended care, the reason we use that is because their immediate care is what they already own, which is their Medicare supplement or their Medicare Advantage. And so we're trying to contrast their immediate care with extended care and realize again that when you're having this conversation, the biggest misconception is that they think that they're currently covered. In fact, one of the key understandings that you have to establish is that they're currently not covered, because if they think they're covered, then they don't see a need for the solution. Tom, anything that you want to share or jump in on the breaking the ice before we move on to the second step in the process?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the big thing again is the big key is if you don't take that first baby step, and it's not that far out of your comfort zone, whatever product you're selling, I promise you this year 2030 is when all these baby boomers that we always hear about are going to be hitting claim age. And this, as you can see now, if you read the newspapers or if you do anything in the industry, especially, more and more times this topic's coming up, how people are in trouble. Medicare's in trouble, Medicaid's in trouble, Social Security's in trouble. And all these seniors are causing that little bit of ripple effect that we're going to see. So my main thing is, if you don't start that conversation, unfortunately, it's not just the old sales adage that somebody else will and you'll lose a sale. More importantly, if you don't start it, maybe nobody else will, period. And you're not going to be able to help that senior. So I'm very passionate about what we do. So my biggest thing I'll add to this is whatever you use to break that ice, just make darn sure you break it. Start the conversation, and it's literally as simple as, hey, I'm really glad we got you set up with our product today or whatever I was talking to you about or selling to you. But I tell you, Jim and Betty, I wouldn't be doing my job helping you out if I didn't ask you, do you have something in place for your extended care? Just start the conversation, see where it goes from there. And I have a whole webinar coming up. The dentist and I'll probably be tag teaming that as well coming up in the next week or two, that we're going to talk about a full sales presentation really from A to Z, where we really start showing some examples of these conversations. So make sure you just remember, whatever you do, break that ice, take that step and start that conversation. And then creating the desire kind of leads right into that, Dennis.
It certainly does, Tom, and thanks for that insight. You know, the key is what you're really doing is you're interviewing the client. Okay, this is not a presentation, it's an interview, because what makes it different is that you collect information by the questions that you ask. That's a really subtle difference between presenting or talking at someone like you might do necessarily in a live webinar with consumers or a live face-to-face event. So remember, this is all about the interview, and it's all about asking the right questions, as Tom said, to pull them in, to go deeper. And so part of on that creating the desire is, remember this, that clients, they don't always buy what they need, but they certainly almost always buy what they want. So creating the desire is about getting them to want to add extended care as the other half of their healthcare plan. That's really important, because coming back and contrasting that immediate care to the extended care is half their plan is taken care of. They got that in place. And those of you who are not selling Medicare but are selling final expense or annuities, but you're talking to 65-year-olds, it doesn't really matter that you're not a Medicare specialist. You can still say, as I understand it, your Medicare is taking care of one half of your healthcare plan, but the other half is not being taken care of, and that's why you need extended care. And so here's another tip. And again, it comes back to what it is that you might be presenting to that client. And you may want to write this down if you're just so that you would remember it. But I've learned this many years ago in my training. I had the good fortune of being trained by some great mentors way back in the day, when all we did was face-to-face selling and it was the blocking and tackling. And I learned this phrase, and I've never forgotten it, and I've incorporated it in, it's helped me tremendously to not only train agents, but in my own personal selling over the years. And that is, when you want to introduce something that's new, in this case, what's new is the word extended care. Well, then you first must compare something that's new to something they already own and understand. So in this case, if it was Medicare, they already own and understand Medicare, again, you're contrasting where the differences are. If they already own and understand and they're younger, their health insurance, then you contrast it to their health insurance. If they already have an annuity, then you contrast it to the annuity. The key is you're not coming out of left field and just introducing extended care. you're comparing it to something they already own and understand. And then what you can do is you can show how extended care is going to pick up where Medicare leaves off, or extended care is going to pick up where their annuity left off, and it's going to be able to protect those assets that they have in that annuity. So it's very, very simple, and this is very subtle, but when you do it the right way, it's amazing how early on you can get people leaning in and wanting to have that desire. It's also important, that client understands is that extended care is going to pick up and cover all those expenses that Medicare does not cover. And so as we go on and talk a little bit about, creating the desire, you have to determine how far you need to go in this area. You might say that you have to help people, to further recognize the needs. Some of them have already had experiences. Some of them have already known individuals who have actually received services. And so don't go deeper than you have to go. If you're a Medicare agent, if you're an annuity agent, or if you're a final expense agent, I can promise you that this does not have to be a long-term care interview that's an hour and a half in length. You can go start to finish with this 5-step process and really be able to disturb, raise the red flags you need to raise, and motivate them to a successful conclusion, and you can do it in under 30 minutes. I promise you it's that easy if you just follow the guidelines that we're giving you today. And so, Tom, one of the important steps as we go further from creating the desire is if you don't need to necessarily help them to, that they recognize that need and that they already have the desire, and you don't have to necessarily illustrate where healthcare costs are going, and you don't have to talk about the fact that their health could change over time. You can go right into talking to them a little bit about the health and about how these products are designed. So I don't know if there's anything else on creating the desire that you want to jump in on, Tom?
Yeah, I want to make sure that they know that we have the tools there again. And if you remember the website I showed you, there was a few stats on there. You don't want to overwhelm them, like Dennis said. Keep it simple and only give as much as you need to make sure you're turning their head. That's going to get easier. Everybody's in this industry knows that this industry is really in for a big boom because of the aging seniors. But we do have some stats, and even that simple stat we started with today is a powerful stat. Because remember, we're not talking long-term care traditional insurance. We're talking extended care where the triggers to get benefits from these policies, most of you already know, you don't need that 90-day certification where a doctor says you're going to need this for at least 90 days. That was one of the, quite frankly, limiting factors in traditional long-term care, With these short-term care plans, all you need to do is have help with activities of daily living, 2 of the 6. And that comes in to play way more often. So when I say 70% and 90% of couples, that's a true statement with these type of products. So remember, you can use that pretty easily with your clients to say, all the baby boomers we always hear about, they're all going to need care. And you realize that, we all hear Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all that's in trouble because they're stretched too thin. But you don't have to get into the exact percentages and details on all these things, even though we have that information if you want it. The key is with your clients is they're going to recognize that there's not going to be a free lunch out there. And the fact is, boy, most people I'm looking at, you're a married couple, Jim and Betty, there's literally a 90% chance one of you will need some type of extended care. And again, this takes off and carries over where Medicare doesn't. And if you start getting people kind of going, yeah, but Medicare probably will cover most of it, remember, things like knee replacements, hip replacements, all those different things, these policies will cover on an indemnity basis, whether Medicare covers it or not. And, I don't know if we want to jump over there now because of time, Dennis, but we did a little webinar segment on the observation status versus inpatient status. And we talked to the fact that every senior I'd ever talked to, if I was in the field today, I would say, hey, before I let you go, regardless of what I helped you with today, remember, if you ever go to the hospital and they ask you to sign a bunch of forms, look at what you're signing. Because I know we get carried away and we're like, okay, I got to sign a bunch of legalese to keep the lawyers happy. But one of those forms is this Moon form, and it's basically a form that sometimes will steer you into saying, I'm not considered an inpatient, even though I may have been in the hospital for a couple, 3 days. They might say, no, you were just observation status. And again, without getting too deep on today's call, but I promise you, you'd be drinking out of a fire hose, so I get to bring it up, is that's just a great way to help your clients regardless. And then it starts this conversation to say, guess what? If you're considered an outpatient status, observation only, if you need to go in and get rehab after your knee surgery or something, Medicare won't cover it. So this is a way to cover your back and to say, this is just another reason to get one of these plans, is that even if you're just going in for a week or two of rehab, that's a big bill that can sneak up on you. And we have the slides that we may be able to show you on today's call later, $28,000 example of somebody who got caught and didn't realize what they were doing, and they got hit with this big bill. So there's easy ways to create the desire, and we give you a lot of ways to do that. But again, only go there if the conversation needs you to get to that point, because you don't want to jump into the health and everything else if they're pot roasting on you and they're saying, you never developed the need. I didn't think I really needed this, so I wasn't paying attention. Does that make sense? So Dennis, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or clarify anything.
Tom, that's perfect. Yeah, the moon form, and again, it comes back to using official information. It's not, it's not you saying this. This is a government form. Same thing with the Medicare and You handbook. This is coming. These are the words of the government. Which, if you're talking to the seniors, and all that stuff will lend credibility. But the key is, Tom, we like to say this all the time, that we buy these plans more with our health. Certainly we have to budget dollars and set aside dollars to make it work. But sometimes agents who've never done products because they've been selling, annuities, or they've been only doing MA plans, and they're not used to really, even though there may be a prescription drug benefit, but they're not used to necessarily asking certain questions. We make it very conversational, and Tom's going to walk us through and just show us an example about how easy it is, because these plans don't come with an automatic enrollment, but it's so streamlined that that's why we're placing 90% in the short-term care and we're placing 99% in the home care, because there is not much that you have to do to get these plans. And Tom, you may want to just share that if you want to pull that up and just talk a little bit about the underwriting process.
You bet. And again, I'll try to keep this short too, but the key is to remember, some of you have been in the long-term care trenches. Some of you have heard the evil stories about the huge applications and having to feel like you have to go to med school to sell it. You don't have to do that with this. Really, we hit the easy button. Remember, with our home health care only plans, that it's as simple as saying, are you getting care right now, or are you living in a facility? If you're not, you know what? You can get a policy. So when Dennis talked about, that's a great opening line, by the way, after you develop the need a little bit, to say the good news, you guys, is with these policies, I can offer you different levels of coverage based on your health. It does come down to your health a little bit. You buy these policies almost more with your health than you do with your checkbooks. But the good news is it's very simple. If you mind if I ask you a couple health questions, you're not in a facility or needing help with anything like bathing or dressing or eating or anything right now, right? Okay, the good news is I have plans for you. So I have things that can really cover you and save you at the time of claim. But this is just an example that I'll show on my screen here for you guys as agents. And you can see there, the top one is literally the two questions that are for Manhattan Life, and then the GTL home health care only plan is basically the same two questions, but expanded out with a little bit more verbiage. And then it goes into a little bit more about upcoming surgeries, et cetera. And it does have memory loss as part of GTL's home care. So all I'm trying to show you guys is that's how easy. You just passed your first doctorate degree in underwriting. It's easy to find out if somebody can get a plan. Even when you jump into more of the short-term care, the full facility and home health care, it's nowhere near 100 times easier than getting long-term care. It really is. So I want to make sure you understand it's very simple to do. We have needs analysis forms for you, or you can do it on a legal plat over the phone or across the table and just say, the good news is I have something for you, but I'm going to dig a little deeper to see what levels of coverage I can get you. Have you been hospitalized in the last 5 years, and what kind of meds do you have? That'll give you a good idea of where they're going to be. And part of that tool that we have that, again, today I'm not going to go through and train you on it, but we have full training, is this InstaPivot tool. And this InstaPivot tool, because I'm on a webinar, will be a little delayed here opening up. But this InstaPivot tool is a really, really broad tool that can go through if you want to use it. I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to take it away saying you don't have to use it. It's just there if you want to go a little deeper. But this has a bunch of our products here in this short-term care or extended care arena, from True Freedom's home care, prepaid home health care plan, all the way over to the GTL Recover Cash or Aetna Recover Care. These are full short-term care plans. And then we even have some other plans in between, including the Wellbe and the Omniflex, of course, is right in the middle. And what we're showing you with this is, on the left-hand side is every health condition you could ever imagine for any one of these products. And basically, using a very simple tool, you can go in there and type in a few keywords based on their health conditions, and it'll show you at a bird's eye quick view which products you can get and which ones you can't get. So nice thing about this, again, I'm not going to go into training on it, but click in any given state where you're talking to your client, and if I type Alabama, you can see they all turn green. All the plans are available in Alabama. You can see the age groups up there, all the way up to age 89 for a lot of these plans. And then you can go in here and even hide some of these products if you wanted to. So all I'm trying to show you is, based on medications, over 1,000 listed medications, or every single condition that could affect these plans, you can really quickly sort it out and find out if somebody needs help. So that's the Intense tool. A lot of home offices love it. Agencies love it. I could go into detail on why it's so powerful, but now I'm going to do the takeaway and say you don't have to use it, because I already found out the home health care plans are easy, right? Are you presently getting care in a facility? Or maybe for GTLs, do you have a cognitive impairment, etc.? Those are simple. But even short-term care, I'm going to pop this up and just show you how easy it is as a conversation. This is the Omniflex application. You could do the same thing for the other short-term care plans if you wanted to. But I just wanted to show you how easy it is in a conversation to say, hey, you know what? I think you're going to be eligible for this plan, but I just want to check my oil. If you're sharing your screen, it's super easy. But even if I was just on a phone call, I could do this real easily. Look at the first knockout question, AIDS or HIV. Again, we know some people will have it, most people won't. Next one, are you currently on Medicaid or Medicare due to disability prior to age 65 or disabled? Again, throwing the net super wide. Then question 3, here's those activities of daily living. Here's, are you receiving home care or are you in a facility? Then we get down to part C, D, and E. Again, major conditions, right? Look at how easy it'd be to have a conversation, and you'll see this on the upcoming webinar when we do the A to Z. Hey, you don't have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's stage 1, 2, or 3, or Huntington's or a cognitive impairment of any sort I don't know about. I didn't think so. Next one, look at these next two. This is to do with diabetics. So some people are diabetic, we know, but in this case it says, are you diabetic with these complications, neuropathy, retinopathy, etc.? Are you an insulin-dependent diabetic in conjunction with heart failure? So diabetics aren't knocked out just if they have some of these other conditions, right? Then we have a safety valve for the company in the last 12 months, any tests or treatments that we haven't heard the results, etc. And then finally, the cancer question that will knock out some people and you'll have to pivot. But look at how easy that was and how easy it would be to have a conversation to say, yep, just like I thought, Jim and Betty, you both qualify for this Omniflex plan, and we can get you some great coverage. I want to find out if I can get you a full-blown plan and really throw the coverage net wider. Can I ask you a few more questions? In the last couple of years, have you had any of these conditions? And I won't read them to you today on this call, but look at how easy this is. These are major conditions too, right? They're just talking about strokes or TIAs or congestive heart failure. Again, if I answer yes to these, you're not going to get knocked out. It's just going to decide whether you can get a $3,000 a month maximum plan, or if you can go in and offer a full-blown plan that could pay $12,000 or $24,000 a month, etc. So this is just to see if you can get the full coverage or limited coverage. Very simple stuff you'll see in our Omniflex training, right? And again, diabetics with more than 50 units. Again, big conditions, MS, lupus, muscular dystrophy, etc. These aren't even knockouts. These are just saying you have to get a limited plan instead. Okay, does that make sense? I just wanted to show you again, you can use our InstaPivot tool that has all these different conditions in there that you can type in and find them. But my main thing I'm trying to show you is you don't have to even go to the InstaPivot if you don't want to. You can do all of this right from a conversation with your clients. And that's what these slides were showing you here. So Dennis, you want to add anything to that? Otherwise, we can jump right into setting the stage.
Yeah, Tom, no, I think that the health is easier than you think. And I think it's, your confidence will grow once you do it once or twice and you actually do it with your clients. And setting the stage, and remember again, Tom already did the great setting up by saying, hey, I already got you covered. You want them to know that with that home care only, that, hey, virtually everyone's going to get that coverage, and now I'm just going to see if I can get you more coverage. But when we set the stage, keep in mind there's three components of plan design. There's their current age, their current health that Tom just covered, and their current budget. And keep in mind that these plans, although we're not going into we have separate webinars just on plan design and how actually design the plans. You'll see here in the classic, the premier, the deluxe with the home care, how the plans work. One of the things that to keep in mind, both with GTL and Manhattan, is they both have an RX drug reimbursement ranging from $300 to $600, and GTL even goes up to $900, and you don't have to be on claim. But this is what we call the premium justifier, because most seniors today are taking enough medications, and Tom uses his own personal health as an example to show how easy it is for someone who's a lot younger who can still take certain medications and qualify for that reimbursement of up to $300 a year with OmniFlex. In this case, with the home care, we're talking about $300, or the two other plan designs, Premier and Deluxe, go up to $600. But Tom, look at those premiums. And now these rates are a little bit different than the short-term care rates, which are the rate that you start with is the rate that you stay with, as far as from an issue age standpoint. Whereas in the home care only plans, they are age banded, so the rates do go up as they enter a new age band after they're in 5-year age bands. But look how affordable they are. And then Tom, factor in that prescription drug reimbursement on the classic plan, and my goodness, it's hard for clients to believe that they actually can mitigate virtually all of their premium. And even if they threw on some riders, they could get that down to about $5 a month if they're 65 to 69. Now, it does go up when they cross over to 70, but still you're mitigating a good deal of that premium, and it makes it easier to make that sale with your client.
Absolutely. And again, we have this available for you on the site. And mainly what I want you to do as an agent, a lot of people don't break the ice because they're afraid they're going to get caught getting asked a question from somebody literally as random as, how much is it? That's why we have these simple rate deals on there. You'll see the websites, and we have training on how to fill out the apps and how easy it is. But this is just to give you a broad idea if I'm talking to Jim and Betty in their Medicare age, to be able to say, hey, these policies, I can design you a home health care only plan. You already said you're not in a facility or you're not getting care right now. Just so you know, I can design this year so it's basically free for you. I mean, that's how inexpensive these plans can be, and they go up with age. And you can see here we have Manhattan Life for all the different states. Here's GTL, same story here. They're the 300, 600, 900 reimbursements, so you can really get down. Remember, $25 per month is the average for 300, so you're looking at $75 per month off. So you could literally start at almost zero, even for a full-blown Plan C with GTL with that 900 reimbursement if they have some meds. So the average 65-year-old, remember, has 27 plus meds or refills per year. So we know that a lot of people are going to hit the 300 for sure, and a lot of them will hit the 600 or 900. And same thing with this OmniFlex short-term care. Again, we're just showing you today so you can have a conversation to say a single or married couple. You can look at it and say, here's a nice little $3,000 a month plan, and we can get that done for you. These are level premiums, unlike the other ones that ladder up in 5-year age bands. But for any age person you're talking to, you can glance down and really quickly get an idea based on what they feel their affordability is and what you feel they can afford when you start designing plans. So again, we got to go through that because we're getting close to our time. But Dennis, anything else you want to add on that? I just want to
Well,
make sure we
Tom,
cover.
yeah, thanks, Tom. I wanted to come back on the health side. Just when Tom covered that, remember, we're talking about being underwriting off of the application, and with most of those products that we have, they'll only do an RX drug screen. A couple of them do have a height and weight chart. The Manhattan does not have a height and weight chart, and we're talking about a 2 to 4 day turnaround time. As far as it's not jet issue, but it's pretty darn close. And keep in mind that those questions that Tom walked us through on underwriting, if you contrast that with a Mutual of Omaha 55-page application, this is easy in the implementation process because we're talking about that you can transact business any way that you want. You can fax in the app, do a paper app, you can, mail it in, but the e-apps, Tom, are really quite easy from an implementation standpoint. And remember, when we were just covering the plan design and we gave you those sample rates, do not be careful. There's a saying I've liked to use over the years that says multiplying words divide attention, multiplying insurance options divide interest. So be careful that you extract what is their current budget, find out the bookends, if you will, and then when you lead with that one solution. Don't create indecision by making too many choices for the client. They're relying upon you to be the expert, and so again, all of this can be done in short order. But Tom, the e-app, just talk about that process, because really the enrollment is under 10 minutes, and then really part of the implementation that we want to make sure that you're aware of is the cool down and managing clients' expectations as far as what the next steps are involved. But I'll let you share some other insights on the implementation.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Dennis. I'm going to go back and just jump in on what Dennis was talking about. He has a real valid point. If I was screen sharing, I would have this on my secondary screen, or I would have this printed out from my website, because I like what Dennis said. I don't like going out there and spreadsheeting and saying, look at all these numbers. It looks confusing to people unless they understand it. So this is more for you as an agent, as you're starting that conversation and starting the plan designs, to get an idea in your head so you can quickly know, hey, if I get this up without inflation up to 400, 300, I'm looking at this number versus this. But I totally agree with Dennis on that. By the way, don't bring that up and share that necessarily with your client. Kind of use that for you to make a good recommendation. So sorry, just wanted to throw some fuel on that point, Dennis. The implementation today, we don't have time to go in and show it, but we have full training on the different sites and how to do the e-apps. And again, that's real simple to do. And I can't stress enough how simple it is, because they're pretty intuitive. We help Manhattan Life, for example, design there, so you can do a quick quote on there, or you can walk through the presentation. And again, without confusing you more today on talking about it, I can tell you this: most agents, once they get on there once and do it, they realize that it's a very simple, intuitive process. It watches your back and doesn't let you get through without showing you green on all the different categories. So it's super simple, and it's something you can do real easily with your client sharing your screen. Dennis, I don't know what else to say on that because it's too deep to get into.
Just again, all of this process can be done in under 30 minutes. And just remember with implementation that when you're getting ready to leave, part of that is the cool down. You remind them of what is the next steps in terms of in that process. And we could go even deeper on how to start the conversation, but I think we've covered it pretty well, Tom, in terms of that, the who, why, when, and how. And again, if you need refreshers, we've got these recorded webinars. We have some other resources that are there. But this 5-step selling process is really just, it's a track for you to look at to remind you of the sequential order of how you do things when you're having that conversation. And so I think our time is pretty much we've come to the end here. But Tom, I just want to reinforce that we're talking today about teaching you skill. That's something we can do. But what we can't do is we can't teach will. We can't will you to do this. You're going to have to come to that decision on your own, and that you really want to be this resource, that you want to go out and you want to expand your market, You want to help more people. And a byproduct of this is that you'll make more money. And really, starting the conversation is easy. And I hope that today we've illustrated just how easy that is in terms of that 5-step process.
You bet. Dennis, and my team is going to give me a hard time as soon as I hang up here, because I was out of town for the last couple months and on business trips and last couple weeks, and I have an upcoming webinar. I think it's next week already. Truthfully, I should have had a slide in here, and Lynn's going to give me a hard time saying I told you I should have designed it for you. But be on the lookout for that invite, because we do have not just starting the conversation, but the complete sales process, A to Z, where Dennis and I are going to put our money where our mouth is and try to get on and show you kind of a little bit. We'll break the third wall and talk to you a little bit, but mainly we're going to try to show just how easy this is to do in almost a real life situation, where we can walk you through how to break the ice, how to go through and answer some of the questions and ask the right questions, if you will. So hopefully you'll join us on that webinar as well. But that being said, Dennis, I'll let you have final thoughts, but I want to tell you, this is Tom Randall. Thank you so much for jumping on and spending your valuable time with us today, and hopefully we'll see you on a webinar again real soon. Dennis, any finals?
No, appreciate everyone's time, and realize that, you know, the clients really have a need for these products, and you're going to see, you know, the importance of cross-selling is going to continue to grow, where you can be a resource in more than one area that you normally specialize in, and it's easy to do. Simple, easy, and fast is what we're all about today with the extended care market. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Check out that website. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Golden Care is always here to serve you with new tools, new products, new ideas, and new innovations, and always the best support in the business to help you succeed. So give us a call at 800-842-7799 and check out our website at www.goldencareagent.com.